Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Idiots Talk Aquariums Podcast. We hope you all have been enjoying our previous episodes, and we thank you very much for the support. We recently, I think it was just like 2 days ago, ticked over 1,000 plays, so that's pretty impressive. So, just wanted to take a second to say thank you to all your lovely listeners. But yeah, I mean, aside from that, we may as well jump right into the news segment of the show. So I don't know which one of you wants to go first. If either of you have had any exciting stuff happening recently. Someone?
The most exciting thing that looks like it happened in the last week is Cam got a haircut. So he is now a swag-looking hillbilly from... It doesn't actually look like a hillbilly anymore. I don't know. He kind of looks like he's going for the lumbersexual sort of look, you know, with the trimmed beard and the hipster haircut. It's interesting. It's a good look on him.
I thought I was going for the wrestle look without the muscles.
Oh, yeah, I like that. Yep. I'm going to go last because I'm going to introduce our mystery topic. So, Cam Nelson.
So, Cam can go first.
Cool. So, I brought my sawhorses into work. This might not sound...
You didn't use tools?
No, I used my car to bring them in.
Okay. All right.
It might not sound like a massive achievement, but it's the first step to actually take all that silicone off that big tank that I pulled apart that I bought about 6 months ago and I still haven't done anything with. So now all the tools are here because I have to use a knife. It's a tool. There's no real excuse to pull this tank properly apart and put it back together again. So I'm gunning for having it completed by the end of June. That's my goal. And now that I've said it publicly, there's going to be people that are able to keep me accountable for it. So hopefully by the end of June, it's all deglued, re-glued, back together again, and we're cycling it for some fish. So fingers crossed, that's where we go.
Nice. It's a bit of a shitter of a job on a big tank, but it is what it is. Just once you get into it, the job gets easier once you get into it. But the biggest problem with you is using sharp instruments and stuff and not hurting yourself. So you're just going to have to be more careful with that. And
believe it or not, I was born with all of my 10 fingers and toes, and I haven't cut any off yet, so I'm doing okay.
Yeah, but best you just pay a guy, I reckon.
I can do that.
It's a shame you can't get an aquarium repairing sub because I'd probably double back on that one because I need a couple as well. But anyway, carry on.
Funny.
Is that your news? Got your sawhorses in?
That is.
You've got to dig deep for it.
That is fairly. Honestly, that is exciting. That's really good. I'm happy with that. It's a bit better than the doom and gloom of tanks exploding on me and everything going wrong. So I'll take that little win.
Take a win. Yeah, I like that.
Yeah.
Yep, fair enough. I haven't had...
Cam's going to talk about his albino cherry bulbs, which actually look pretty cool.
Actually. Yeah, so I got some new fish in the other day.
Geos.
They're pretty dope. Like the cherry bulbs, they look like they're like I don't know, like kind of glowing. So I just want to... I don't know exactly what I want to do with them, but I'm going to do something with them. I'm thinking, because I've had a few people ask if I can...
Put them in an aquarium.
Yeah, well, that's a good first step. We've already covered that one. But
okay, cool. Well, you're there. You've made it.
Yeah, man, I'm pretty clever. But I've had a lot of people asking me to try breed them with my longfin cherry bulbs and try get longfin albino. So that might be a plan, but I do have to see if I can't find some space for them first. But like for a breeding operation, but
you need a bunch of tanks for that.
Yeah, I know, but I'm sure I'm seeing whether I can find. I don't know if I can find a bunch of tanks. I don't know. I might be able to. So
you can probably find the tanks, but finding the space and where to set them up is the key thing, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. I don't know. It might be doable. We'll have to see. I'm still processing it all in my mind.
I heard there's a huge building next door for this.
No, there's not.
There's not.
No, there is for a lot of money that I don't.
Isn't worth albino cherry bulbs?
I don't know. I'd have to breed a lot of them to make that work. But yeah.
If anyone wants to start a GoFundMe for Cam to set up a cherry bar breeding operation in the store next door, just let us know. We'll push it out
Sounds
there
like a plan.
to our 27 listeners.
Are they pink or are they more white? Does the video look like they're a little pink?
They're pink. Definitely more pink than white. It's not like it's albino in the sense they got like the white under sort of color, and then like the red eyes and stuff, but not like albino, like white albino. Like I don't know. I'm sure there's a scientific description for this thing, but I don't know what.
There's quite a bit of color on them for an albino fish.
Yeah,
they're not just a boring pig thing with red eyes. They look like they're quite.
Yeah.
Quite
is it
colorful.
lutistic?
Quite bright,
is that the word? Is that the word, or is lutistic when it's white with no red eyes?
Leucistic is with black eyes.
Lacking pigmentation or something, is it?
Yeah.
Oh, that's albino. Is albino lacking pigmentation? I can't remember.
It's quite weird how some
leucistic has black eyes.
It's quite weird how some albino fish are like pure white with red eyes, and others are just like lacking the original color with the red eyes. If that makes sense. But you can still kind of have the undertone of it. I guess some colorations are hard to remove completely.
I don't think I know enough about it to really comment, but like, there's some weird shit going on, man. Like, you see all sorts of random stuff, and it's like, oh my god.
The genetics would be really interesting if you did try and go down that project, because you'd have to breed in the albino and the longfin gene. And I don't know if they are, what do they call it, like a 50-50 split type gene, or if they're whatever, recessive or dominant, I think that's what they're called. But yeah, it'll be interesting to see how you can get both of them back in. I mean, albino's fairly easy, but I don't know about the longfin.
I'd
have to do a lot more research.
What's that?
I said he's definitely going to need to go fund me for that building.
Yeah, man. Well, I don't know. I don't know if I need that much space, because like it's not like they need big tanks. Maybe I can find the space around my shop. We'll see. We'll have to see what happens.
Get rid of some of your Oscar tanks. They're absolutely unnecessary.
I've only got 2. Come on.
2 too many.
I disagree.
2. He said 2. Anyway.
All right, Ryan. Well, what have you had going on?
I always say I haven't had a lot. I've just been pottering in the fish room, cleaning out tanks and sorting out fry and things like that. So, yeah, just been really enjoying the fishies.
Fry?
Interesting
have
fry.
You had any interesting
my
fry?
Shisha breed. My Shisha breed. They're not fry yet, but they breed, which is cool. They're nice. So
it's a good first step.
Yeah. Just otherwise just normal cool fish, Cam needs to come out and take some.
Yeah, I do need to. I'm pretty low at the moment, so I'll see what I can do.
All right,
why don't you talk about your food? Oh, why don't you talk about your food drama?
Yeah, food's a nightmare, isn't it?
Yeah. Which we were talking about yesterday.
I go through a lot of food, like I buy it 5 to 10 kilos at a time out of the States usually, but I'm trying to get it in New Zealand. But typical, when you try and get stuff in New Zealand, no one can supply it. Like I don't want to buy 100, 200, even 500 gram containers because they're just too small. They last me like a month and they cost a fortune. So I'm trying to buy food by the 3, 4, 5 kilos of, and you just pretty much can't get it. Cam, Omega 1 won't bring it in. They're having some supply issues, Cam was saying. And it's a nightmare trying to get decent food. And we've traditionally just got it from the States, but a friend of mine got some in and MPI tried to stop it. They released it in the end, but it sounds like they might be a little bit funny about bringing food in. So it's quite hard to feed your fish when you can't get large, and it's already expensive enough running a large fish room as a hobby without having to buy food not in bulk.
What food do you feed in in that sort of quantity size buckets?
I buy I get food from Ken's, which it's one of the American sites which is well regarded. So yeah, that's where I get most of my stuff. I get a flake from him, and then I use Omega-1, and I'm going to go back into New Life Spectrum as well. Only went out of New Life Spectrum because I couldn't get it.
Off topic, but completely on topic. I was following someone or saw someone post something on Facebook the other day of like a 10-litre jug of prime and stability and like basically the whole CChem range in like 10-litre jugs, or maybe it was slightly bigger than that, like massive containers. So like, these sort of things are being manufactured overseas, but just clearly the demand isn't enough for New Zealand suppliers to bring such big units of stuff in. Yeah.
I think Cam has some goss on the Omega-1 situation. I don't think it's more that they're not bringing it in. I think it's they're not producing it, but Cam can say more.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. To be fair, I haven't talked to my rep about it recently, but she was telling me that they moved their factory, Omega did, in the middle of COVID, and then they were having trouble getting it back up to speed again, and so now they're not bringing any bulk Omega foods at all, even like because we're talking about like the kelp, what they call it, like kelp flakes or something like that, but they're not even bringing in like the general community flakes in bulk or anything like that anymore. And like people probably would have noticed, like trying to find Omega in general at the moment is pretty difficult. So I think it's all just related to that, and like supply and production is more of an issue rather than desire to bring it in, because they used to bring it in and it used to sell well enough, I suppose. So yeah,
my rep said a similar thing. It was production issues at the other end that was making it become an issue to get hold of it. And then when they do get it in, I'm assuming they aren't able to bring in the quantity that the New Zealand market needs, and it goes on their website for a day and then it's gone again the next day, and then you see people pushing around trolleys full of it into their shop, so people are for stocking up of it.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And she also said that like once Omega does get their production back to full speed, New Zealand will be like last on the list to get it again. So I don't think it'll be anytime soon that everything's back to normal when it comes to Omega. And the problem is because Ryan was looking for flakes, there's a fair few good pellets around, but there's not many good flakes around. So that's
and also a lot of the manufacturers that do bulk do like a 10-kilo bucket, a 10-liter bucket, which is still only like 800 grams or a kilo or something like that. Like it's not actually bulk, like it looks
it's
like
not bulk if you've got a stupid amount of fish.
So but it's still really expensive.
Are Omega not doing the like 4.5 kilo boxes of flake anymore?
That's what my rep told me.
It looks like they're putting all the energy into doing the smaller high margin ship, which makes sense if you've got limited production capacity.
Yeah, and I've had issues with trying to get your flow back again.
Yeah, and overseas, whenever I click on the 4.5 kilo bucket box, it always says sold out on all the sites that I try and order off. So I think they might be out of stock worldwide.
I quite like the Omega freshwater flake, but like it just never sold for me.
That's random. I always get because people always bring. I don't know if that happens for you, but people always bring their old containers of fish food when they want to get new ones, because so they can like match it to what they want to buy. And people always bring in Omega. I think because Animates pushes it quite hard. So then everyone's always seems to have it.
I'm a little more advanced than you down here. Like I've got a system that I can like have a look at what people have bought. So if they don't need to bring stuff in, I'll just search their name.
But they don't always. Yeah, but Auckland's a big place. I don't have the same 3 customers coming every single day. There's people that have never come before coming in.
Yeah. And to be fair, in Nelson, it's probably like a day trip they have to plan for to get to you. You know, like they have to get the horse fueled up and the tires on the cart pumped up, and you know, like the
can throw a phone and Nelson from one end to another, unlike Auckland where you're like 40 minutes away from everything. God, you need to refuel every fuel station you see.
Saying Ryan lives in Auckland is generous. I would say that's very generous. Lives in the middle of butt nowhere.
Yeah, well, we can't all be rich little shore kids, you know. Like you just
exactly, man.
Just continue down there in your little house on the shore. All right. Anyway, should we get on to today's topic? Now, I did have two topics in mind. One was slightly negative, but we've all had a little bit of a downer week last week, so we're going to go positive. And I want to talk about, like, not about fish as such, but about the coolest sort of stuff that's happened to you around the hobby. You know?
Oh, that's a good one.
It's like a feel-good sort of I've got a cool fish tank in my house reasons to keep fish. You know what I mean? Like, because we all know that, like, we're cool because we got fish. You know, like, we know that. We just have to keep telling ourselves that, and maybe one day other people will believe it. But, you know, just like other experiences you guys have had and things that have made you, you know, go, wow, this is fucking cool. This is a real cool experience, you know?
Yeah, man. I'm down. Well, I think, why don't you get us started so that Cam and I have a little second to come up with ideas, but I've already got a few ideas floating about my head. But
you've already talked a little bit about this in some of your videos anyway. But the coolest thing that I've found is just meeting random cool people and making friends, you know, like a lot of fish people are weirdos, but we're weirdos too. So sometimes you fit together. You're quite cool.
It all works out in the end.
You know, like we're about to undertake renovations on our house, and I know pretty much every single tradie through fish. You know what I mean? You know, and I can go out there and go, oh, one of my fish mates is a sparky, one of my fish mates is a plumber. I'll message them or I'll ask them, you know, like, and you just know people, and you've all got a common interest, you know. Years ago when I first moved to civilization, I had to move like 20 or 30 fish tanks from my fish room. And I managed to reach out to a guy in Auckland through the community and move. The week before I was due to move the house, I moved all the fish tanks on a trailer full of stuff and dumped 20 fish tanks in his house, filled them up with fish and left them there, you know. And he's still one of my good friends, and he still listens to the podcast every day on the way to work. So, you know, hi,
shout
Andy,
out.
and thanks for helping me move my fish up and looking after them and being a good bugger. So, you know, like, it's cool. You know, I've got other friends that are photographers, and he comes out occasionally. Cam knows him as well. And many of you who've gone on Facebook, I think he listens to the podcast too, will see his photos pop up on Facebook, which just look amazing and look like they're out of some sort of aquarium magazine. Unfortunately, he's gone to the dark side and keeping a few dumb fish, but eventually we'll get him back to Africans. And, you know, so he comes out, has a beer and takes photos of my fish for me and hangs out. And I'm going to get him to do some work for my business at some stage. He's only just heard about that now if he's listening to the podcast. So, you know, we'll hit that. You know, it's just connections and just meeting cool people. I love it. So, yeah. What about you guys?
Yeah, man. Well, I mean, I wouldn't know either of you guys if it wasn't for fish, obviously. So, I mean, I'd say you're acceptable people. So that's a good start.
I'm normally not associated with people on the shore. With that haircut, you're definitely more acceptable. I think everyone should jump on YouTube and give Cam a like for his haircut. You know,
You know what he looks like? He looks like when you, like, I don't know how to say, but like when you take an 11-year-old to a wedding and they have to get all nice, like, groomed up and look nice, but then you can tell, like, underneath they're still like, that's not their vibe. Like, that's kind of what he looks like. Yeah, but like in a good way.
I'm still swaying towards I'm a wrestler with no muscles, but hey, that's cool.
It gives me, like, a Harry Potter's let it all go look. Let it all go look. You know. You know.
This is the last time I listened to my wife and Blue and told me to get that.
Well, to be fair, my missus was forced me to shave, and I only shaved it like half the length that it normally is. And I mean, you can't see it now because there's so much shadows, but I think it makes me look like a 12-year-old. So, I mean, I guess we're even on the bad grooming advice.
And I've just got no hair at all, so
yeah. Ryan, it doesn't matter. Just get the spit polish out, and it'll look the same no matter what.
Make the shiny forehead go. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. But I'll go next. I'd say the first sort of thing I'm gonna say is, for me, I don't know about you guys, but for me personally, it is the whole keeping fish sort of, I don't know, experience, I guess, if you want to call it that, has been very good for my mental situation, like mental health things. Because, like, obviously I've done a video on this exact topic, so, like, you may have heard this before, but I have had issues in the past, so I find, like, having you know, something positive to put my energy into, and, like, relaxing and, like, calming and all productive and all this kind of thing has been very beneficial. And I know, like, from speaking to a lot of other people, just like, you know, random customers or like random people that I've met, you know, go and buy fish off or whatever, a lot of people has had the same sort of, not same, but like similar kind of experiences. So I think that's a important aspect that I think a lot of people get a lot of benefits from, that perhaps isn't talked about as much as, you know, some of the other stuff. So yeah.
You say mental health?
Yes, I did. Thank you for listening to my talk, Ryan. But yes,
I wouldn't got a drink, but yeah, no, I totally agree with that one.
Yeah, but no, I think it's very beneficial for me, personally. It's like, just like, you know, everyone always talks about how relaxing it is, and like I'd agree with that, but also just like even the sort of mindfulness of like doing your maintenance and all this kind of thing personally is very helpful for me. So yeah, I think that's one of the best parts about it for me. That one, I suppose, is a little bit, I guess, not sad, but like not as fun as some of the other things that I think we will be talking about. But I thought it was definitely worth a mention.
Also, the cool thing about that, like, is the people that you meet. Like you and I sometimes reach out to each other when we're having shitty days and stuff. You know, you'll reach out to me and say, "Oh, I can this or that or whatever." You know, so there's that. Also, you can get lost in your fish tank sometimes, just watching your fish. I'd sometimes just looking at my fish instead of watching TV, and the missus goes, "What are you watching your stupid fish again?" You know, and I'm
man, exactly.
Around, you know, and she's making her lunch behind me, just pulling funny looks at me right now. You know,
oh, nice.
So
you're getting punched in the face soon.
Have you put a ring on your finger yet? Have you put a ring on her finger yet? Oh, she can't hear you because of the headphones, can she?
She can't hear.
You just got to put it on speaker. You got to put it on speaker, Ryan.
I'll just carry on. Don't worry. Don't worry.
Oh,
just keep making it. Can you make me some lunch too?
Please.
Now.
But yeah. Nice one. But yeah, so that's kind of my first one. What do you have, Cam?
Coolest thing so far is I got this awesome pen from Kongs who do Aqua One. These pens are amazing.
What?
Actually,
why the hell don't I get any pens? I don't get any pens.
Also, you've been elitist now. We don't all get free fish merch, you know.
Yeah, I don't even get free fish merch. The only ones,
the best pen, and it's got a torch of all the red pens I got given.
The only ones I ever get is the Brooklyn's ones, and they always just last like 10 minutes, and then something goes wrong with them.
Yeah,
I'm outraged. I'm going to be sending an email later today.
Right. So, as a genuine point, I think
yes, I did.
that I can come to work every day, and it helps me feed my kids. I do something that I enjoy. Like, there's no day that I come into work, even when all this shit happened to me last week, I didn't come to work without a smile and sort of come home happy as well. So I think that's something that's pretty massive in my life when it comes to keeping fish. That's pretty huge.
I 100% agree with that one. Obviously, not everyone is going to find us relatable content, but definitely being able to do it for a job is being really good, for me personally. And a lot of people, I think, seem to, I don't know, I guess worry of like if you turn a hobby into a job, then like you would like lose the enjoyment of it, or like it becomes a chore or something like that. But I always say, like, because it's something people ask me about quite a lot, just like in general conversation. But I always say it's like I always feel like I love fish and like aquariums and stuff more every day than like the day before, even though it feels like it's like 100%. Then it's like every single day, like I go to work, or like I'm messing about with something, or like researching about some real obscure plant or something, then it always feels like it's always like adding in that sense. So yeah, and I mean, I think probably even for people who's not obviously not necessarily in the workspace, if you're not working in the industry, but like even someone like, I don't know, with just like one little tank that they'd spend like 30 seconds on a day, it's something like, it's just like enjoyable, obviously. And it doesn't matter if you spend like 8 hours or like half an hour or whatever on a day, people enjoy it. And so, I mean, at the end of the day, that's surely the only thing that matters. I mean, more in life, really, but like, particularly with fish, I mean, if you enjoy it, then that's the main thing, and it adds to your life in that sense. So yeah, they're nodding, which is not helpful for a podcast, but yeah.
I agree. I agree. I guess another cool thing about it is the flexibility as well. Like, you can do whatever you want to in your aquarium.
Just not if you ask the aquascapers.
If you put, I was going to say, just don't post on an aquascaping page if you're going to do crazy stuff, because oh my god, you will get destroyed. But anyway, that's a whole other discussion. That was where we were going to go instead of this one, was things that grind like yes. But I didn't want to go into.
We'll save that for next week.
Yeah, I think we had a negative week last week, so we'll go positive this week. But yeah, like we can keep dumb fancy plecos if you really like dumb fancy plecos. You can achieve whatever you want to achieve and just enjoy your way, and it's cool.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, there's a lot of flexibility to be had where you can kind of like, I guess it's almost like a self-expression of like, someone wants like a real calm, like planted tank with like tiny little fish, or someone wants like a big crazy tank with a bunch of nuts Africans, or like anything in between. And I think often that reflects the actual person themselves, which is quite a fun little aspect.
I think the fact that there's so many different things you can do with so many different combinations, like it's almost limitless, even with our limited stock and plants and stuff that we can have. You can do so much different things, and as long as you're 100%. Enjoying it in your house, that's all that matters.
And there's the other thing is like, you'd imagine, like, obviously we say like fish keeping circles are small, but like there's a lot of fish keepers around, but like still, like every day you'll see something that's like, what the hell, I've never seen that before, I've never even considered doing that particular thing that way. That's so weird, that looks so cool, that's so different. And then it's something else the next day, and something else the next day. It's
but even like you look at the trends, like 10 years ago we would never have thought about, many people wouldn't have ever thought about growing plants out of tanks, and now heaps of people are doing it. It looks real cool, like we're just discovering new stuff, doing new things. Things are getting a little bit more everyone's going a little bit more natural now and trying to create biotypes and all that sort of stuff,
So always evolving.
It's always evolving, yeah. And
yeah. And I mean, I think also going back to something that Cam said just before about like, even though we have sort of clearly like limited fish available in New Zealand and like limited plants and everything, I always say I reckon we got so much stuff that it's like it would take you so long to run out of stuff to sort of enjoy. Like there's maybe you can't get like a Star Sapphire or whatever, but like you can get stuff that's like pretty similar, or you can get stuff that's like real different, but like you wouldn't have even considered normally in that. Like there's a lot more scope than I think a lot of people realize for what kind of fish and plants and stuff that are actually available and sort of readily enjoyable, I guess. Like I think people get a bit, myself included, get a bit kind of bogged down in what we can't have and forget that there's so much cool stuff that we can have, and there's always new stuff as well, or like new ways of enjoying the same stuff or whatever like that. So I think that's another kind of important part to remember that I think gets forgotten about quite easily, just because you obviously on the internet and that a lot of the stuff comes out of like the US or like Asia or like Europe or that, where there's different stuff available, but you'll never run out of cool stuff basically.
And also, like,
if you're as old as Ryan, you might run out, but that's
we do get some cool stuff come in. Like, at the moment, there's an opportunity to be the first person in New Zealand to breed albino cherry bulbs. Like someone could do that.
Yeah, man.
Like if you want to be, there's all sorts of cool little projects that people can do. Like if you wanted to create a strain of guppies, for example, you could go out there, get 10 tanks, and you could just breed your own guppies. You can do all sorts of color strains. You can do whatever. So, and it's a lot cooler than, like you could do it with dogs, but man, you'd have to have a lot of dogs and a lot of, you'd be
a lot of room for them.
Yeah, but you can set a room up and you can be a mad scientist and actually create stuff and do whatever you want to do. Like that's what I do with my Africans, track down some cool stuff and then try and breed them and get them out there,
Yeah, exactly.
Challenges and projects and, just...
There's always something to do. You don't want to get bogged down in what you can't.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
And
this was supposed to be a positive one, not a negative one. So it's not. It's not
well, it's your turn. So why don't you give us your next one, your next positive one?
It's Cam's turn from Nelson.
It's my turn. Okay. I think another one, probably on a similar vein to what you've said about meeting people and stuff like that, is I've had the ability to connect to people around the world and talk to them about their hobby and understanding other people's journeys on how they've been involved and where they've got to where they've got from keeping fish. I think that's
you're probably in a unique position with that kind of thing, with like your Friday live streams and that. You get to meet such like obscure people that I would have never even heard of, and have these super interesting conversations about, about shrimp or about breeding or about a certain specific plant or whatever. And they live, the other side of the world. And obviously 100 years ago, you never would have even known they existed, but now you can have these big, deep conversations.
And that's not lost on me, that's sort of happening on a weekly basis for me, which I think is really cool. But then furthering that, it's also having the ability to bring that to other people at the same time. Like anybody who wants to watch and learn about or find more out about whatever the hell the topic is for that week, it's all available there. And like that transfer of information and knowledge and general community that it brings is definitely not lost on me. And I think that's definitely something that's not fish related, but totally fish related that I've really enjoyed about this hobby, or at least maybe bringing a bit further through to the business side of thing, or whatever sort of way you want to word that.
Yeah, no, for sure, I get that. And I think the other cool thing about it is, like, particularly obviously for you, is like you using the medium of the live stream is like people can, if someone like is watching and thinks of something that, you know, they want to ask, or like a comment or something, they can sort of be involved in that sense, rather than like a more transactional, just like consuming the information but not really being able to have any input. Which is, I think, quite different to a lot of other ways. Like, you know, if you're watching YouTube or something, it's quite different to that sort of method of doing it.
Yeah. There's a real community feel and vibe, all based around the love of keeping water in glass boxes, basically.
Yeah, for sure. I mean,
so the interesting thing as well about it is, it's and I struggle with this too, is it's very hard to define what's wrong or right in an aquarium as well.
Yeah, for sure.
Like we can't even agree. We the three of us can't even agree on right and wrong on some things. So that makes it confusing, but it also makes it interesting, I guess, because
part of the fun.
It is. I mean, obviously, we're not saying stick an Oscar in a 2-foot tank, or you know, arowanas in 2-foot tanks like some of the shops up here do. You know, we're not saying that. That's wrong. We all agree that's wrong. But going forwards, there are other things that are up for contention and do work in different ways for different people. So, you know, it's pretty cool in that regard, and that you can push some limits, you can experiment with stuff, and you can learn and you can try stuff. You know.
Yeah, I guess what you're saying is like, there's some stuff that's like very clearly wrong, and like some stuff that's very clearly right, but then there's like a whole lot of middle ground that's a bit fuzzy, which is really interesting to hear everyone's different perspectives on, and like reasonings for, and all that kind of thing.
Yeah.
So yeah, no, that's pretty
another
cool.
one is seeing like the joy of kids with aquariums. I mean, you guys probably get to see that more often than I do. But I put a little fish tank in my partner's class, and I'm getting harassed constantly about the bigger tank that we need to sort out, Cam, at some stage when you've sorted the other one out.
We do.
But when I go and need to do anything with the fish, I'm like, I'll drop off this fish after school. She's like, oh no, can you come in now? The kids want to see it. And then I have 30 little beady eyes looking at me and trying to ask questions, and they're all excited about this little 25-litre tank in her classroom. Like, they just love it. They're all, and she's noticed too. She hates fish. She thinks they're dumb, and that's okay. We don't have to discriminate against her, send a lynch mob out against her or anything. She's pulling faces at me, but anyway, but she can still see that in her class there's kids that sit in front of that tank and just watch the fish, you know, like just watch them for ages, and they're fascinated with them and they love it. And so she can definitely see the value in that in her class, and she wants to get a bigger tank so she can get bigger fish. So yeah,
exactly. I think obviously I get a lot more like interaction with that, I suppose, like get a lot of kids and, you know, young people and stuff through, and it's always so cool because like the thing I think is the coolest part is like a group of kids will come and like look around through the shop, and like everyone will just get like fall in love with some different thing. Like there'll be like even something like super random, like there's like I have a little statue of a dragon in one of the tanks that like some kids love, or like some kids love like a little like trumpet snail that's just floating about, or like some people like some, you know, neon tetra, or some people like, you know, a pleco or whatever, and it's like everyone finds that different love, like same as I guess with any fish keeper, but it just like with the nature of kids, it's a lot more sort of intense, I guess, and like, you know, amazement and all that kind of thing. And also the other thing is like kids love axolotls, so that's always fun to see. Just like all the kids absolutely lose their mind when they see little man Franklin sitting there, just like start screaming like, "What the hell's that thing?" And it's like just so interesting to see and so fun to watch and learn
it's fascination too, eh? They just go through.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, oh, what is that? And it's like they're discovering a whole new world of something they've never even knew was out there.
Yeah, exactly.
You know?
It's like a sense of like amazement or like wonder or something like that, you know.
And a weird, obscure correlation. I once heard something about how like the McDonald's business model was families take kids to McDonald's, they get the Happy Meal with the toy, and they remember that, and that's sort of embedded in the back of their head that it's a happy time to go to McDonald's. So they're bringing their customers up, bringing their customers on for basically ever trying to reminisce of these happy times. And you can see that happening with whenever kids come into the shop and like look at what's going on. You can just sort of see that you can continue to harbour that and encourage that. That's going to be a fish keeper that goes the full journey of their life. And I believe as a bit of a general, I don't think we do well enough for younger fish keepers coming in. We need, as a hobby, there somehow needs to be more to continue to bring more kids in, because they're going to be the lifeblood of the hobby.
Yeah, 100%.
And the hard part with that is the parents have to essentially take responsibility for a fish tank, and they might necessarily not want it.
Yeah.
But that's why the parents should have one as well, and then they can do it together.
I don't know about you, but Cam, but how often have you had a family come in setting up a tank for a kid, and all of a sudden they bought 3 more because the parents have really loved it, and then they're hooked in the hobby as well? That happens.
I have plenty where it's like, you know, someone will buy a tank for a kid like for Christmas or something, and then like the kid's like, oh, that's cool, but like kind of loses interest in like 3 months, and then the parents are like absolutely obsessed and like come in like every other day buying all sorts of like random little obscure pieces of equipment and stuff, and then it's like, you know, that's the foot in the door, but then the parents just like get it in their blood, and the kid's like, oh, that's cool to look at, but I don't really care that much. So it's it's like always funny to see, and they're like, oh, I got this bloody tank for this kid, and now I've ended up with like, you know, a massive tank in the middle of my house, and I spend all my time doing it. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
And sometimes you see adults so excited that they like kids when they can get a new fish, or they can get like something new comes in, or even I was sitting in Cam's shop once, just chilling in the chair, and I saw someone come in, and they were just going through the whole shop, like looking at every single piece of driftwood, every single rock, and like just turning everything around and going upside down. I mean, maybe they would, I don't know, like an aquascaper, but obviously they weren't a dick aquascaper because they came in to see Cam, you know. So like, but I was just like, that person was just real fascinated and real like intense in what they were doing. Like it was just, and he knew that whatever they bought, they were just going to treasure and take home and spend ages just putting it in their tank and just enjoying it. You know, I was just like, yeah, that's real cool. And obviously someone who's got a lot of tanks like me doesn't agonize over rocks and stuff anymore, but it was cool to see that, you know, people still do. And
yeah. It's like, it's that whole thing about like how everyone has a different experience, I guess. You know, like it, and that can look like, you know, it looks different for every single person, but everyone kind of gets the same like sort of feeling or experience, but like it manifests in different ways.
Yeah, and everyone loves the new fish vibe. You know what I mean? Like you get something new.
Oh, exactly.
You know,
even like that was like you the other day when you saw those. You heard the rumor of like those new trophies getting bought in. It was like it was like a 5-year-old on Christmas Day, and it was like, oh my god, I'm gonna go see them and like play around with them. And my friend wants to go halves with me, and it's like,
take my money. Jesus, how much do you want? Just take it. Take it now. I'll take them all.
And that would have been a very serious investment if it had worked out, but it didn't. So, you know.
Do you reckon they would have been cheaper to buy them than an engagement ring?
Touchy subject.
Yeah, there's no suffer ring with those ones.
The funny thing is he can't. The funniest thing is Ryan has to be pretty ambiguous what he's talking about, otherwise Kim will overhear, and then he'll be in proper trouble.
Yeah. Also, well, the good thing is she's never going to listen to this because she only listened to it for 2 seconds to laugh at me. So, you know.
Sit through 45 minutes of fish talk to get the 2 sentences of engagement talk.
You love all of us? Laughed at all of us. Okay, she didn't just laugh at me, she laughed at all of us.
Fair enough. I would too.
Yeah.
So that's another thing that's cool that's happened in the hobby is that we've brought laughter and joy to people.
Exactly. Even if they're just laughing at us, you know, rather than laugh with us, but that's all right.
Hey, who cares? It still counts.
Oh dear.
Who's got any more? This is all we can come up with.
No, it's right. It's your turn, isn't it, Ryan?
My turn. I've been talking shit the whole time. Hang on.
All right. Well, Ryan's, I assume, getting yelled at about his engagement ring, so I guess I'll go go next. I'd say for me the sort of, I'm going to say, I don't know how to explain really, but I think the sort of responsibility, it's probably for young, more related to young people as well, I guess, but like the responsibility sort of aspect of like, you know, it's obviously like money's involved and like life is involved and like all this kind of thing. So you have to like, you know, do your maintenance and like buy stuff that's like valuable and not, you know, take care of it and like all this kind of thing. I think is quite it's good for like people's growth, I think, and because like that's what I've noticed a lot with like a lot of the kids that comes in. It's like they get like one little tank and then they look after it for like 6 months, and the parents like, oh, because you've been doing so good, you know, taking care of all the stuff, and like you haven't broken anything in that, like we'll get you like a bigger one, and then like, oh, we'll get you a second one, and then we'll get you, you know, some more expensive plant or something like that, because I know you're not gonna, you know, be reckless with it and it's all gonna get destroyed or that. So yeah, it's like I think that's quite good. Like I suppose it does apply in some ways to all people, but I was thinking more about young people in that sense. So yeah.
Also, you guys have found like quite a good sort of connection with people with disabilities and stuff with aquariums as well, and
yeah,
that sort of both of you have got disabled people that come in the shop and just spend time with you hanging out, and you can tell it's they just love it, you know, like the
exactly,
and the fascination with it, you know, like and what it gives to them.
Yeah. So like I don't, if people haven't been in before, I have like where my physical shop is like, you know, on one corner basically, and then on the other corner there's like this big medical center, like doctor's offices kind of thing, and probably like once a month there's this one guy in particular who's quite disabled, who always comes, and he has like a doctor's appointment, and then he always comes like at least like 45 minutes early, and he always says to me, he's like, oh, I get like very, you know, nervous and like scared and like all this kind of thing about going to the doctor. So he like comes in early and just sits in one of the chairs, and then he asked me to put on this specific like this specific music thing that I put on for him, and he just like sits there and he like looks at this like National I have like all these National Geographic books. He like flicks through and like looks at the fish and listens to the music and like calms down and have some sort of, you know, quiet time and like calming down time before he's got his big doctor's appointment that he's getting real scared about. And as you know, that's wholesome shit basically. Like it's even something like so seemingly small makes a big difference. And he's like, he can't I don't know how to say, but like he's not in a position where like he can have an aquarium himself, but for him he doesn't need to. He just like coming and like looking around and like just watching them and like learning about, like he asked questions about like, oh, this specific fish or whatever is enough for him to sort of be involved in the hobby, even if it's not necessarily like in the same hands-on way that a lot of other people would, be keeping an aquarium. So yeah, that, like, I think it touches a lot more people than just like the people who's like getting one for their house or working in the industry or something like that.
It's fickle.
Yeah,
you've got similar experience down there, don't you, Cam? With
young Seth comes in every Monday and does a little bit of work around the shop and cleaning tanks and feeding fish and stuff. And he's got a tank that we're setting up out the back that once we're all prepared and ready to go, we're going to put it into his house. So he loves fish, just absolutely loves it. And if he's not here talking about fish, he's sending me messages asking if he can have this fish with this fish and do we get these and all that kind of stuff. So it's cool. Just it's so strong a part of other people's lives that you kind of forget sometimes that people do obsess over aquariums and keeping fish, and it is their often things that they just go to work to fund their fish hobby.
And that's like the other thing is like you can sort of obsess over something so like seemingly niche and like there can't possibly be anyone else in the world who's loves this particular obscure fish as much as me, and then like you go online and there's like a whole community of people who just love this one particular random fish, like this one particular plant, or like this one particular way of like a method for breeding something, or like type of light or something like that. And it's like, that whole community thing is really, I think, powerful and helpful for a lot of people.
Yeah, definitely.
So yeah.
Another thing for me is being involved in people's journeys with it as well. Like come in, bouncing ideas off you the next week, taking that sort of brainstorming session and adapted it and changed it, and coming back with another idea and just slowly building this aquarium or fish room or whatever it is that is being built in this person's house, to then it's in place. We've put in the plants, we've put in the fish, and now we've got this thing out of someone's head and into their house that they've sort of worked from a blank canvas to nothing. I think that's quite cool as well, being involved in that journey of discovering and setting up and things like that.
Yeah, it's like the evolution of the whole process is quite fun to be a part of, even if it's like obviously not your thing. Like you'll never see it in real life or anything like that, but obviously you see pictures and stuff, and that's pretty fun to be a part of.
Yeah, I agree. I get people do that to me, to ask me for help with a tank, and then they send me photos all the time and show me stuff, and it's just cool seeing people's tanks that you've helped with and then actually enjoying it, and helping them when things go wrong and actually managing to get on top of things and turn it around,
It's always the challenging part.
It's always good too, But
yeah, it's a fun time.
Yeah.
Definitely a fun time.
Yeah, for sure.
Well,
do you guys, who's next?
I feel like we've ran out of things to talk about, which is astounding for me, because we usually go forever. I thought you guys would have been brimming at this one. You would have just been like, "Yeah, let's go."
I have more
Let's get
suggestions.
everyone talking about tanks. Let's go. We're fish shops. We're going to talk about all the benefits.
Might have been the way that you phrased the question.
I have other suggestions. I just didn't realize it was my turn. So you gotta, what we do in civilization, right, is like there's like this order, and like everyone just is civilized and like orderly. So you guys probably aren't aware of this process, but that's what we call it. So yeah.
Is that what you do on the shore? Is it?
See, we're on a podcast, so you guys shaking your head is not going to make any sense to anyone who's listening, and they're going to have no idea what's going on. But
the people that are watching will be thinking exactly what we're thinking.
Man, he is so right. These guys are such idiots. But yes,
right,
so I'll go with my next not topic, but my next thingamajig. Hold on. Oh, sorry, I missed the mute button. That's awkward. But no, the next thing is I was going to say about is probably not so much to related to the people side of things, because I think that's pretty universal. Like we've been talking about it quite a lot, the people and community aspect. But I think more about like in terms of the actual fish and that there's a lot of fish that we deal with, even in New Zealand, with this limited supply or whatever, that are endangered or like extinct in the wild or anything like that. I will be the first to say a lot, like plenty of times where that's completely our fault, and so that's a whole different problem and a different thing we need to deal with. But there's also other ones.
The industry isn't our fault.
Yeah, like we've completely overfished something, or like some form of introduced fish has wiped them out or something like that. But that's a topic for another day. But just in general, like there's plenty of other things that's not industry related, like habitat destruction or something. But we can still keep these fish around in sort of like living on, I guess, in our aquariums or ponds or whatever, where even one day maybe the habitat gets reconstructed, or the predator fish, that the introduced fish that's eating them all is wiped out or something like that, where it's possible to reintroduce them. Or just like even sort of like, I guess, like a legacy type of aspect is like still living on and still doing their thing and still on the face of the earth. I think is quite, it's something I think about sometimes, but I don't really know what to think about it. It's like kind of heavy. I'm like, whoa, there's a lot of responsibility. Not for like individual people, but just for like humanity as a whole. It's like a whoa, like you gotta kind of sit there and think, like, this fish I have, like this white cloud mountain minnow is just hanging out in my tank, and I have like a group of them, but you can't go out, and find them in the wild. Well, okay, that was a bad example because you can't, but like naturally you can't find them in the wild where they're supposed to be. But I can find them, I can just turn around and there's some sitting next to my couch. Like, it's food for thought. It's like an oh my god, this is crazy stuff kind of thought. And I think it's something like, I don't even know if necessarily anyone needs to do anything with that thought, but I think it's something that people should think about and consider, just because like it's so wild and like so interesting.
Funny that you say white cloud mountain minnows, because that was the first thing in my head when you started talking about that.
Yeah, that was, I think, obviously there's plenty of, like, unfortunately, there's tons of examples. But yeah, I don't know, that them and the roseline barbs are probably the most, I guess, famous examples that people will know what I'm talking about when I say that. But yeah, I mean, it's pretty. I don't know. You'd be astounded by the stuff.
You'd be astounded by the number of fish we have swimming around in our aquariums that are completely devastated in the wild for various reasons.
It's horrific.
Not always the hobby, but sometimes the hobby.
Sometimes. And I think even that sometimes is important to think about. It's like this is a different podcast episode in of itself, so I won't go too in depth, but it's something to think about. Like, should we keep them, or like should they be wild caught, or like should this only be available captive bred, or whatever. Like, there's, I'm sure, a million different answers to that question, but it is a question. I think it's something we need to think about, but in our positive mindset, it is very like, no, well, I don't even know if positive. It's like a very sort of interesting and like important thing to think about, that I don't know if we do as much as we probably should.
I think
when Cam came up here, and I went out to pick him up from Eastern Marine, and we were just at the back talking to the owner of Eastern Marine, and he said it's a privilege to work with these animals. And
that's a very good way of putting it.
I've never heard anyone say that before, and it's just resonated with me ever since. That even though I've kept fish for 25 years, and I've always felt a responsibility to give them the best that I could, I'd never actually thought of it that way. I never thought it's a privilege to work with these animals. You know what I mean? Like, it sounds a bit touchy-feely and a bit, whatever. But it was really interesting for me to hear them say that. And I was like, wow, it is. Like, and I'm glad to hear someone in the industry say that. Like he actually took it seriously.
Yeah. I suppose with them, obviously dealing with the marine fish, it's probably a bit more of a sort of conscious thought of just even simply given like the price point and like given that they're all or mostly wild caught and all that. But, I think, something like a $4 white cloud or whatever probably doesn't get that same sort of consideration when, like, in my opinion, they should, but it doesn't sort of cross people's mind as much as it really should.
Like a live fish is still a live fish, which is still a live animal, and everything else that goes with that.
Yeah, exactly. Like the fish doesn't know how much it costs.
Yeah.
It's that's what I was sort of trying to get at before, was almost the challenge. The challenge of keeping fish is a cool thing. You know what I mean? Especially when you can achieve it. Whatever you're keeping.
I think rolling it back just a little bit, like the amount of conservation groups that have started from hobbyists, I think is phenomenal as well. Like, there's a lot of conservation groups doing stuff because they are hobbyists and realize that things are not going the right way for habitats or fish in the wild, and we've got to do something about this. How do we try and make a change? How do we make this better for the fish? There's plenty of them around the world and even in New Zealand that are working like that because of hobbyists keeping aquariums.
The awareness they get from keeping the aquarium, researching the fish, finding out this fish is extinct in the wild. Shit, I should do something about this, and lobbying people and stuff and trying to protect them,
Yeah, it's just like the raising awareness kind of thing.
And that wouldn't happen without people keeping aquariums.
Yeah, basically. I suppose it is a double-edged sword, though, like in that sense. Like, it wouldn't be in that situation, but then also it brings extra awareness. So it's like
it's one of those things. Would we be in the situation if people were taking all the fish, but then also if we didn't take the fish and we didn't know they were there, would that habitat get destroyed, or would that habitat be valued?
Yeah, exactly.
I'm still on the fence with all that sort of stuff too. Like, I think that we can sustainably take fish from the wild for some populations, some no, but it depends on the fish,
From the conversations I've had with a lot of people, a majority of it is habitat being destroyed, pollution, waterways, water conditions, that kind of stuff in the wild that's taken most of the fish stock out, more so than the hobby. Not saying that it doesn't happen in the hobby, because there's definitely fish that have that. There's definitely fish that are smuggled out and all that kind of stuff. But the vast majority of it is related to industry, devastation of the waterways and pollution and that kind of stuff that has caused the fish stocks around the world to be depleted, not so much keeping them in glass boxes.
Oh, that's
exactly.
prevalent. It's prevalent in the African cichlid world. There's plenty of fish species that aren't allowed to be collected, and people go over to Africa and find out which divers know where they are, bribe them to take them out there and grab them. They're grabbing fish from different parts of the lake that are further away and relocating them to closer reefs, so they don't have to go as far in their boats to collect them. They're stuffing with nature hard to try and make money.
Yeah. And arguably, like, everyone's got to make money, everyone's got to feed their kids, and there are significantly worse things being done to make money in the world than smuggling fish. Doesn't make it right, but there are significantly worse things happening in the world that people either turn a blind eye to or get paid off somewhere along the track, so it's not spoken about and all that kind of stuff. So.
But end of the day, we're talking about the positives here. The positive is that you can have the challenge of keeping something that, and the responsibility of keeping something that could be extinct in the wild potentially, and you could keep that going, and then maybe one day someone will reach out and say, mate, I need some white cloud mountain minnows from unrelated genes to reintroduce to the wild, export them from New Zealand, and you can be a part of that, like that'll be amazing, wouldn't it?
Yeah, man.
Like it'll be cool to be involved with something like that.
It's pretty big stuff.
Even the people that donated their clown loaches and big fish to the zoo, that's real cool stuff too to be involved in, like sending fish to an environment where they're probably going to have the best environment in possible in New Zealand. It's awesome.
In the world.
But I wouldn't say that. I don't know about the world, but yeah, it'll be up there. It'll be up there. Yeah,
be better than someone's house.
It's a zoo exhibit created for those fish.
You can even wheel that back a little bit and specifically keep it into New Zealand with how we're very unlikely to have any new zebra danios brought into the country. So if you're holding zebra danios and people don't keep breeding them, then eventually they may not be available in New Zealand. So, at some point you might be the person holding the bag of zebra danios and you've got to do the work to get them out going again. Like, Ryan's got fish that he's most likely the only ones with, and, if he can get them moving, they go back out and into the hobby and back and stuff like that. So
African cichlids are terrible for it, but we've done it with all sorts. I mean, look at celestial pearl danios, all that sort of stuff. If we're such a small country that things do essentially go extinct in New Zealand in the hobby, and sometimes for whatever reason they get omitted from the list or taken off the list just for randomly, even seems like a paperwork error, and that's it. You won't legally get them again, So if you don't breed them and you don't keep them going, they're stuffed, With African cichlids, a lot of people crossbreed them, and then we end up with mongrels. But that's just a whole different kettle of fish.
That's a different podcast.
It's a different discussion. So you don't actually end up keeping them at all. You end up keeping some random crap. But there's a responsibility to keep good stuff going.
Yeah, for sure. Oh, anyone else got any other suggestions that we've missed off the list so far?
I'm all tapped out.
Yeah, I think I'm good for the morning. I'm gonna get my son up and fight with him to get to school. So,
well, maybe we can cover the rest of them on the part 2 episode, whenever that may be. I'm sure we can scrounge together a second one if people want.
Now that you guys are actually thinking of that, you might come up with some more things since I didn't drop it on you.
I have some more ideas, but I don't think there's time.
What's that?
Have you thought about giving your son an aquarium to give him some purpose in life to get up in the morning before he goes to school? That might be a good option.
He spent his whole life being dragged around looking at fish tanks with me. He has no interest in fish at the moment. And it's hard to make a teenager have any interest in life apart from a teenage boy having interest in girls and computers and phones.
Yeah.
You say that, but there's plenty of teenage kids that know more about fish than me.
And you've brought them out to see me and stuff, and they love it. So yeah, they're cool.
Oh yeah, I have actually.
Yeah, I've met them.
Yeah,
they're awesome. What do we call them? The foopies, the fish groupies.
No, what was it? Groms, wasn't it?
No, I think the fish groupies is better. Well, you're probably a bit young for groupies, aren't you? You don't know what a groupie is. So.
Oh no, I know. I've seen your history documentaries.
Except they're obviously not sleeping with you because you're not the band.
Okay, this is getting inappropriate.
Anyway, carry on.
Get us cancelled.
You want me to edit this part out?
Cancel culture. At the end of the day, we're an hour and 8 minutes in, and who knows if anyone's actually...
It's not all going to be gold.
Cool.
We're just throwing against the wall and hoping people listen.
Yeah, exactly. Anyway, I think we're done now with the subject. It was a bit of a mystery one for these guys. They didn't actually know what was going to happen, so they weren't prepared, but they still did okay. You have to connect on YouTube just to see Cam's haircut and my shiny forehead, just so you can see what we actually look like.
And see me looking normal.
And see you just randomly staring away into space with your phone zipping around everywhere like a mad thing.
Yeah, sorry, I don't own a computer. I'm not that rich.
You do, but it's like a box on the desk, isn't it?
Oh, yeah, it doesn't have any webcam or anything.
A really good option will be for you to go to work early, and then once you're finished with the podcast, then you can keep working for the rest of the day.
He doesn't have a webcam, I bet.
It doesn't have a webcam. It's like, I'm pretty sure it's older than me.
Yeah.
But it works.
Thanks for listening. Popped over 1,000 views. The merch is looking pretty awesome too, so keep hitting us up. Sales for that are going through the roof, I tell you. We'll see you next week.
We've had our first inquiry, so that's
we have had genuine inquiries.
So maybe we need to make some merch. Anyway, that's a different story again. Thanks for listening, and we'll talk to you guys next time about another mystery topic because we don't know yet. Cheers.
Sounds good. Look forward to it. See you later.
See you later.
See ya.